Can you kind of describe how the TDR, purchasing of TDR works?
Sure. So first we'll go to the basics, so everybody's clear. When you have your home and your property, you have your zoning, and that tells you how much density you have on your property. And then if you sell your property to a developer, a by right plan would be reflective of how much density that the zoning allows for. The transfer of development right program is meant to take as another tool, like the purchase of development right program through farmland preservation or conservation easement. Those are the tools I usually use. The TDRs is another tool to preserve in the sending areas that were defined in the comprehensive plan that was last done, and then in the zoning, and place that density in the receiving area. Now, how that density is, or how that is calculated was, and again, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I can pull up the zoning. I think the multiplier was reflective of the previous zoning, because if you recall back in, and again, please don't, this is, I'm grabbing at this. I think it was 2008 where the comprehensive plan went in, introduced this idea with changing the zoning in the agricultural district. What were you before? Was it 2? Yeah, it went from 2 to 10. And so a way to use the tool and make everyone somewhat compensated, because that zoning, that down zoning, could potentially mean a loss of value per acre value. This was a way to create an opportunity or a tool from the development community to take that density, buying it from those setting areas and putting it in the receiving area, which was generally around Rockland Station. Did I get, where am I missing? What do you need me to elaborate?
The plan update talks about the township purchasing TDRs as a tool, like you said. I don't know that we've ever done that.
Not to my understanding.
So I'm curious how that would work. How much is a TDR worth?
So the way that the TDR program works, and it's not just Honeybrook, it's used nationwide. Lancaster has a very successful program using it. The market creates it. It's a private sector situation where a developer contacts a person who has development rights in the receiving area, or the bank, which would be what the township could be if they purchased those. And then the developer could make an offer, and that was what creates that value. Now, I'm also going to give my own personal opinion about this, and that is that, at least from what I can see in this township, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no place you want in this township to see development occurring, whether it's in the Rockland Station area or along 322. Every time we lose a farm, we're pretty upset about it. So what the township could do is purchase those development rights through that private means, the TDR program, and retire them. Or, if so be, they can sell, it's a liquid asset. You could sell it in the open market. It's just another means of accomplishing the goal of preservation.
I'm just trying to figure out how that value.
Again, this is where, when TDR was first introduced in the township, we really hadn't gotten going with the farmland preservation program. And we were listening to the Plainset community, and they were very reticent to get involved in the farmland preservation program because of county and state and municipal involvement. They were reticent to do it, and that's why so little had happened. Through that dialogue, we introduced the TDR program, and they're like, so there would be nobody else involved. It would be just us and a developer, and that we'd create the value, and then it would go to other places within the township, and we could sell those, and we'd have preservation, and we would maintain our way of life. And they really liked that as a model. But it never took off. I think how many, Warren was going to be here tonight, his son's 14th birthday. I told him I could handle this question. So As far as how many projects have occurred since then, it's a handful. I'm guessing 2 or 3. So the private sector, the development community, never uses a tool. The farming community, the sending areas, have contacted, at least initially, and had the zoning officer at the time from Honeybrook Township would go and determine how many development rights, and then you would be put on a sheet. And if a developer wanted to exercise those rights in the receiving area, they would contact the township, get that list, and then just start going down and making those phone calls and making offers. And if the private landowner wanted to sell those rights, they could do so.
And Warren was telling me that if you have TDRs certified, it's essentially an easement.
So yes, there was one that occurred many years ago where they did sell their development rights, and it was recorded on the deed that there's no further, I think it allowed for the subdivision of 2 more parcels on that property, but in essence, it's preserved. Again, this is John Goodall, Brandywine Conservancy speaking, where I get confused, and I don't always like this, is that I just think memorializing it through a program, through a conservation or an agricultural easement is a very clean and simple mechanism to ensure that there is no, skullduggery, or a mishap that can occur in the future.
So essentially, if you are a farmer and you go to township, say, I want to find out how many TDRs are on my farm.
Sure.
And they say, okay, you have 10, and you get them certified. You're not getting any compensation at the time.
Correct.
You're just sitting on them, but your farm is preserved.
No.
Because that's what Warren was saying.
Warren-
It's not preserved until you actually sell them, right?
That's correct. That is correct. Now, there's also another wrinkle to this whole thing, because preservation it's not complicated, but it has to be done in a correct way. And for the county and for the state and for the Conservancy, if you sell one of those, now we have a complication. Because what's your value really now? Is it all those TDRs plus your buy right? What do you really got here? And when you bring an appraiser in and you start to try to tease that apart, it can get pretty darn complicated. And, at least from my perspective, and again, I think it's all in this room, we all want to see Honeybrook the way it is. We want to see it preserved. We also want to see the farming community compensated for those values. But when you start mixing different programs, like the TDR program, with your allowable zoning, with appraised value evaluation and preservation, it can get convoluted. So where Warren is correct is if you sell one, you are now not eligible currently to go through the county program.
Was that always the case?
It's always been the case.
I feel like there was definitely people certified for TDRs in like
There was
2001.
one property where they got all the way through it, and it had TDRs that it sold, and he had a remaining 5, and we had to work out a deal because it had gotten to the end of it. The farmer wanted to have it happen, the township and the county wanted it to happen, everybody wanted it to happen, but nobody had known about this. This is where it can get very messy.
Right, because
And
it's not,
personally speaking, again, I say personally because this is just John Goodall, not even the Brandywine Conservancy's position. I feel in this township, with the tools that you have, maybe that layer of TDR isn't a tool, it only complicates and it hasn't alleviated because the demand was not created. I think it was done with the best intentions, and it was a tool that was offered to the farming community at the time because it didn't look like the other tools were going to work. The other tools have worked, this one hasn't. I don't think we should blame the tool. We just need to understand, do we really want it in our carpenter's belt anymore? Or do we want to put it in a drawer somewhere and maybe pull it out again at a needed time? That's again, you're going through your comprehensive plan. And that's where, your township supervisors can mull this over and look at the pros and the cons. It's a great tool, but it comes with complications. I do some carpentry, so I think of like a mighty box or something like that, where I'm pretty good at it, but not always, and I get running on it, and all of a sudden bad things happen. Because it's not the right tool for it.
Yeah.
So, I hope that explains it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of it because it does sound really complicated and it is talked about in the update as the township buying them, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how that
It's
would work.
another, again, there's a list. We talked about this last meeting. How do we create demand again? How do we get this thing going? What tool's gonna be the best one? You have a list right now of farmers that at that time were interested in selling those development rights. If you walk in and say, hey, we wanna do this, we want to buy your development rights, and if you do it in a way where you do an appraisal on the property right now, and you say, okay, that's what it's worth, and then you reflect that per acre value to the TDRs, there's ways to do this. Again, you have to create the interest to have the dialogue to see if it, again, if it's like spaghetti and it sticks. It may not have any interest.
The zoning ordinance, it doesn't really talk about appraisals or anything like that when it comes to TDRs. It talks about gross acres times a formula to
And
determine.
that's
the
where this is
TDRs.
going outside the box. Now, for the township, this township's never bought development rights through the TDR program.
Right.
Do we know any, Rob, that have in this township? Or not this township, this county?
I couldn't comment on that, no.
Yeah, I think Mannheim's done it, where they were banking them, that's in Lancaster, we can do some research on that, but.
But yeah, there's no appraisal or anything referenced. It's a gross lot area, you deduct out like the buildings and things like that, and you multiply that by like 0.52, and that gives you your TDRs.
That gives you, and again, that's the way it's been working. It gave you a list of your TDRs, and as I explained previously, the private market determined the value.
Right.
Now we're saying, hey, if the municipality wishes to buy them, how do you create that value? John Goodall is saying, this is a way you can do it, because you were asking a question. I'm not representing the Board of Supervisors or the township on this. I'm just saying that, look, you have got a list of farmers interested in selling TDRs. You have a township that's not really interested in seeing more density being provided in the township. This perhaps could be a solution to both sides, where the township finds a value, and this is how you could do it, that then would remove those TDRs and retire them. Or bank them and use them in other ways, if they so felt like it. Personally, again, it's a lot of John Goodall talking here. I believe in retiring them. I don't like them being moved in a township like this. With the comprehensive plan that you're going through right now with the borough, maybe there's an opportunity to move density into the borough where I feel is a very appropriate place to have it, if there's places for it. It's pretty built out there. They may not feel the same
You have to have a
way.
market
John,
for somebody to buy them.
This is definitely an important topic, and I appreciate you bringing it up, but we got a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
And
fine.
I gotta-
Darn